Hello, everyone. It's Christ169 coming to you with a Sunday wrap up. This is brought to you by nothing really but me, myself, and I. Today's video is going to be about life, going to be about AMD confirms AM5 platform will be supported through 2026. Now, there is some conflicting situation here, though. Um, some conflicting date. The AM5 socket, AM5 itself, released September 27th, 2022. So technically, it's been over a year since it released. And if you type in AM4 release date at September 2016. And what I got from it was AM4 is still around. The last hurrah, so to speak, of the AM4 if I currently have in my rig at the 5800X 3D. Um, and reason why I want to discuss here in how we got here. And I'll make a little thing here and add a side note here saying and supported how we got here and why AM4 is still here. AM4 is supposed to go away in 2020. Okay, to give you a brief section of it. Um, AM4 released in 2016, September. It had many wonderful lifespans of a socket. It lasted It lasted a long time and it's still going to this day. People are still buying AM4 compatible chips, processors. The 5600X 3D has just been announced only for maybe a couple months ago, probably about say 5, 6 months ago. And people are really liking that because the 1600X, 2600X, we're still pushing, and this information I'm getting given to you came from Gaming Nexus. They talked about like 10 days ago, or I watched it yesterday, so about how the 1600X and 2600X were actually still taking games like Cyberpunk and the new expansion that came out with it and running it, of course, on a 4090, of course. A little more obscene working conditions because no, not everybody gonna have 4090 or 3090, maybe 3070, 3060, 2060, 2027, 2080, a non TIs. So it would be with the 1600X, the Ryzen 5, first gen, then second gen. We always seen the 3600, that's third gen, and the 4000 series was kind of weak. I don't think it was not really much of a shot in the dark or just kind of okay, well enough of that kind of thing, and he moved on to Ryzen 5, a 5000 series, and me being a Ryzen 7, it's a little different because it's the pinnacle of the Ryzen 4 socket. Uh, the Ryzen 5, the Ryzen 7 series, the Ryzen 7 5800X3D is the highest you can go, and even get hardware, not hardware, but hardware on box. Talked about that. I haven't watched them on this yet, but even they said the same thing that I was thinking, and Game X was thinking too as well. Was if you have 1600 or 2600X first gen Ryzen 5, going toward, and if your motherboard is supported, and it should be supported, but that came out back in 2017, 2018. Those two different CPUs I just mentioned came out in those two times. Mentioned that. So it may not be 100% supported. You might have to go out there and update your BIOS, do a BIOS flush, and update it to support the 3D cache that you'd be getting. Or you are usually be getting a souped up 5800X. Uh, and that right now, I can look at prices for you right now to see what it'll cost people for that. So I'm gonna do real quick here, do a real quick little 1600. I'm gonna type in X here, see what that comes up with. Driver support. It has a micro AMD website software. Update your operating system before doing that. Um, it's speed of 3.6 hertz is not bad. eBay is $50. eBay, Amazon sell 140. The scalpers really got it. I think this one or the 2600 was considered the better a one to get. It was like, and I think like $80 where it was. I think next said 1600, 2600. One of those two was like $80 out the gate. This is $210 right now, and I do believe it's both of them are 6 cores, 12 threads. So they're almost exactly identical to the Ryzen 5000 series, and even 3000 series processors. Where if you get it, hands on, yeah, 6 core, 12 threads, watts really low, 95. Clock speed is 3.6, turbo speed's 4.0. It's actually good rating. Actually, has good rating. Not totally terrible, but when it came out, it was considered probably one of the best ones to get your hands on at the time. Um, it's good for gaming. It's good for gaming. It's 2000, but the highest you want to go is probably a 5800X 3D would probably be the better one because it'll give you over 50%, 75% of a better performance compared to the 1600 2600X. And those were like first gen or whatever, and 2600 actually second gen, and they ran real well. And I think the biggest problem with those two right there was that they came out during a time where scalpers are going to scalp what they get their hands on. There's scalpers out there that gets nothing but tennis shoes. They buy all the Nike, all the Air Jordans, and sell them outrageous prices. That's why people stay hours to get Nikes. And that's why you had the console issues. It's always going to be an issue, right? Is that how it is? Going back to PS3 and PS4. PS4 was selling out crazy. People couldn't find one. I got one on December 23rd. The year it came out. Very, very blessed to get one of those, and I loved it and I enjoyed it. But with processors like that, I think 1600, I think was probably around $80 when it launched. I think. And the Gaming Nexus would be knowing more about this than I would because he actually did a lot more diligence, and they bought them at retail, close retail prices, and dropped them into their AM4 sockets, and rest is history. So the best support is going towards 5800X 3D if you're going towards the AM side. 4. But the AM5 not being supported after 2026, to them and to myself, it's not really compelling. Not really compelling me to rush out there and go buy, an AM5 socket motherboard and AM5, RAM and AM5 processor and probably AM5 and probably something that can support power supply a little more than I have right now. Because you're going to go all balls to the wall. You go balls to the wall. And with the 8000 series coming out within probably 2024, you're going to have a lot more people probably buying this. But the AM5 is not selling well. Even Hardware Unboxed talked about this a little bit, saying that people are just upgrading their AM4s. And you got 1600, 3600, you go 5600X 3D, 5800X 3D top. You can go on most motherboards like mine. Highest I can go is 5800X 3D. That's the highest I can go on mine. I can't go any higher than that. I can't go any higher than that. I can't go any higher than that. I know on my motherboard. And you can't overclock it anyway because it won't let you. But the performance ratio, it runs like a 7700, 5700, or like 7700. It runs really well, and you pair it with the right graphics card, you get a better performance. I think what really didn't help Game and Nexus was that me personally was that they were using a 4090. Not everybody's gonna be using 4090s to test out a 7-year-old processor. Now, if you can afford a $2,000 graphics card, you can chuck out a couple bucks to get a better processor. And I understand people want to go big and go home, but I started with 600X, and now I have a 5800X 3D. I'm at the top. I can't go any higher. I have to go to Intel or AMD 5. And with Intel being as wonky and weird as they are too as well, 14 gen right next to the 13 gen that came out this year, a little bit last year, doesn't send a whole lot of doesn't send a whole lot of positive vibes for me. Realizing that the AM5 socket is going to be only here 2026, maybe a little beyond. Because when the 8000 series launch, they're going to go right to the six socket AM6. And technology moves so fast. And people last so long. And really, the biggest thing was COVID and the scalping. The scalping was so bad that people had to wait. They had to wait for that opening to snag something. And I built my gaming rig right at 2020. So technically, if COVID didn't happen, AM5 would have launched probably right around that time. And if it would launch around that time, it would have launched remotely around 2020, and I could be having the first generation of AM5 stuff. You know, technically, if you want to break down, if you want to break it down brass tacks and all, and say, well, it could have been that way. It could have been that way. If you want to break it down that way, if you really wanted to break it down to, hey, this is what we think it's going to be, what we think it is, what it is, then you're good to go. What I think though. That's what I think. What's really going to happen is that people are going to realize what they see. That you know what, the AM4 ain't so bad after all. It's not bad at all because people are literally keeping what they got, keeping what they got. And they don't have to research and say, okay, well, we got to do this, that, and the other. They don't have to. All they have to do is just drop in the AM4 final CPU 5800X 3D, probably flush out the BIOS, update the BIOS, and they're good to go. But AM5, if you bought it now, it's in 2022, and you hear, whoa, a second, 2026, this stuff could be obsolete. That's less than three. That's less than 4 years, 2 years. That's in 3 years. So I think AMD ain't gonna be that stupid. But I also believe that AMD ain't gonna sit there either and let people do another like they did with the AM4. Because I think AMD is trying to get rid of the AM4 sockets and all the processors so they can switch everybody over to the AM5. But will they rush out another socket? Probably. Look at Intel. Look what they did so far. Granted, where it works on the same socket, but they have two, three different processors. The 12 series wasn't going too well. The 11 series was probably the best. 12 series was really well. 13 series got some traction, but it wasn't as popular as the 11 and 12 series was. And now they released the 14 series on top, or fourth gen, 14th generation on the masses, and with no real serious understanding of why people ain't running there and buying the 14 series, where the 12900KS, 1300K would do almost the exact same thing as the 14K. Now, granted, going from 14 to 12, 14 is a major jump. Going from 11 to 14 is a major jump. Going from 10 to 13, major jump. Going 10 to 14, they even a massive jump. So 10, 11 gens, and maybe even 12 gens to a certain most. Processors, Intel processors. Not really your 13th or your later on 12 gen, but your early 12 gen people and your 10 and 11 gen. Oh yeah, that's made totally for them. And more of a cash grab. When your processor comes out and goes for $800, $600 retail, they ain't flying off the shelves. The Best Buy had one or two of them left, so obviously they're selling pretty well. And I even saw a 47 yet at Best Buy, non-TI version, of course. But that being said, though, is 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 what's going on bad with Intel as worse as what AMD with bad Intel right now? Intel's flooding the market with everything is connected to the kitchen sink. That'll probably be added eventually in the toilet and toilet seat and the shower. But it's a joke. But that being said, though, is it really that bad to have multiple options? Not really. Not if you're trying to ease people off of one, no, off of one teat to go to another teat, and you slowly die off that socket series. Okay, we're gonna go to 4. So you aim 4 people. You have to less than a year, say to 2025. So less than 2 years to lap up all you can. Once that, we're gonna stop production probably I think 2024. And when stores sell out of this, they don't have any more coming in. And of course, that will flood the market. You'll buy it and get used to it now. But it also could have the reverse effect too as well. It could cause resentment to AMD. Gamers outside burning AMD and in effigy or euthanagy or whatever you call it. Dancing around the wild Indian like a bonfire with AMD's name on it, lighting on fire because they're mad because AMD is trying to shove AM5 down their throats. But then again, the most of them have been playing AM4 since they got it. I've had it for since 2020. It's about 3 years now. So I enjoy AM4. To me, it's just a socket that I use as a socket set that I use with my CPU. because I'm invested pretty well, but I can use the same case and put Intel on there if I wanted to. I have to just take out the motherboard and rewire the whole damn thing up again, probably. And so my brother-in-law's sister will come in. And I don't think they're want to do that right now. 3 years after I got the system, that's what I'm trying to get. That's why I got the RAM. That's why I got the uh, CPU. I got the cooler. I got the GPU. I got everything I can get updated much as I can. And when I can't upgrade anymore because my CPU just can't keep up anymore, then that's why I switched over to AM5 or AM6, whatever's cheaper, probably AM5, and just slowly, gradually go up. But do I think that AM5 is going to go away 2026? Yes and no. It's real big. That street's hard. That bridge hard to cross right now. Not because there's a troll underneath the bridge or bridge is on fire or once you cross you can't come back. No, that ain't the case. What the problem is though is understanding what I'm looking at. And what I'm looking at is I'm seeing a socket that has just came out, a hardware stuff came out in 2022. It's telling me that AMD has gotten cold feet. AMD has gotten cold feet about the situation at hand. AMD has gotten cold feet. They're worried that they're not going to be selling a lot of AM5 stuff. Everybody's running to buy the 5800X 3D, the 5700X 3D if that was ever a thing. Probably not. The 5600X 3D was pretty interesting. They took the old die from 5800X, took off 2 cores, took off a couple threads, and there you go. You have a new processor. And that could be a bad thing for people over AMD thinking, well, we need to get people off this. But I'm thinking, to hell with it. AMD, let them enjoy their time. Keep building up your infrastructure with AM5. Then when people are like, okay, well, I'm tired of AM4, now I'm going to go to AM5. And they have all this stuff ready to go. They have all the graphics, all the CPUs and the motherboards and the RAMs, and they know where to get it, and they have an idea, and you don't flood them with it, but you give them you want low tier, mid tier, high tier of a level, DDR5, of AM5. I will give them options, a lot more than they can handle. Then they'll start upgrading as they go along. You don't want to give them just like one or two options. You want to overwhelm them where they just burn out. You want to go, okay, well, here's our 4 RAM, our 5 RAM. This is our mid tiers, our low tier to mid, and we also have the 7 RAM, 11, 12. When I'm just pulling it out of my reader end right now. Of those, but we have all those tiers, and every tier has a low end or a high end. You make it maybe more than 3 or 4 of RAM, and maybe even processors, where you have your low processors, high processors, and middle ground processors. The 5800X 3D processor is the highest you can go on the AM4 socket set. AM4 socket. The 5600X 3D is I won't say novelty, but it's actually a thing that came from the fact that they had all these dies and damaged CPUs of the 5800X 3Ds lying around, and they created them. Frankenstein is totally different, and instead of making E-way, take the 700X and make it slower 5600X, whatever 5600 plus X plus or whatever. Give people a chance to get a little more life out of these new CPUs. That way you can extend the life of the AM4 socket. The AM4 socket has been probably the most successful socket for AMD so far. I'm not saying that the AM socket's been terrible. I'm not saying at all. I'm saying that it's probably the most successful socket system out there for PC gaming because it has so many options. Yeah, and you can go all the way up to 5800X if you want to, or dabble and the 4 and go to the 5 if you wanted to. But if you want to get the latest and greatest, you jump from 1600X to 5800X 3D processor. It's night and day, even though it's going from 6 core 12 threads to 8 core 16 threads. You're seeing more math proven speed and processing power. I think people don't understand it or don't get that the socket is just the socket itself, just what is required for the CPU. The CPU is the one doing all the work. If you got a 3600X and you go from to that to 5700 to 5700, that's a pretty big jump. But if you max out 1500X 3D, like I did, a lot of people have done, it's a really good solid 50% from 16 to 20 to 2600X, 1600X to 1500X is almost like 100 a megabyte difference. What Game Next has talked about. So is AM5 dead in 2026? No and or yes. I can't give you 100%. We're not there yet. What I can say is though, if AM5 is it's going to be discontinued in 2026, then what the hell did AMD release AM5 for in the first place? They should have kept AM5 and made it AM4 Plus, and made it where these new motherboards and stuff have better hertz, better overclocking, or whatever the nonsense is, and call all the RAM sticks, DDR4 plus or point 0.5 or what do you want to call it, and make it a little faster. If they're going to get rid of the DDR5 or AM5 socket right after the launch of the 8000 series. So guys, this is my video, guys. Comment down below what socket are you, AM4 or AM5? And if you're AM4, let me know how long you've been. I've been since 2020, 2021. I love it to death. It's awesome socket. It's the first game rig I have. Started with 20. Now I got a 3070 with 5800X 3D processor. I started with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM 3600, and now I'm at 216 gigabytes DDR4 3600 RAM with 32 gigabytes. This is my video, guys. Like, share, and comment down below. Once again, thank you for watching my video. God bless. Take care. I'll see y'all next week.